Hello, welcome again to Signs and Wonders. Today I'm going to talk about the kind of signs that you can look out for once you've committed yourself to a regular practice of meditation, and I do hope that you do have regular meditation practice, and if you don't, you know where to come to. Now, the signs that you can look out for that the meditation is doing something for you are manifold. Some of them are very subtle. Some of them are perhaps a bit more dramatic and exciting. So the subtle signs can occur in your everyday life. You'll start feeling yourself perhaps a bit calmer when you're with other people and they're having a little squabbly thing. You may just feel slightly detached from that, and you can, sympathise but not want to get dragged in. You may feel that perhaps you don't need to rush towards the coffee machine at lunchtime or break time, and that you can manage without the caffeine for a bit longer, or cigarettes, or whatever kind of thing keeps you going during the day. Perhaps you become less reliant on those things. You may notice yourself sleeping better and waking up feeling more refreshed. You can also feel yourself actually more energized. Meditation is not just about keeping calm and keeping stress at bay, it's about energy. Now, for the inner experiences, you can look out for colours moving through your consciousness while you're meditating, changing colours. The Sufis say particularly that green is a sign that you are raising your levels of consciousness to a higher state. And I would say that when you notice a kind of golden colour, a really strong, sunshine on an amazing summer's day, if that kind of colour comes into your mind, and it's not really a colour, it's just intense light, but it is kind of golden. That kind of thing can also be a sign. Also, certain kinds of sounds as well, they can be slightly buzzy, and some people mistake them for tinnitus. And that's usually an indicator that you've got some kind of communication going, but perhaps the airwaves haven't cleared properly, so you don't actually know what's being said. I think buzzing is a sign that something angelic is going on, some kind of communication, and it can be quite abstract, and it may not formulate itself into words at any time, but it's like general presence of some higher intelligence getting activated. Now, because I've been thinking about telling you these signs, I thought I would introduce you to a poem which is rather special, which considers these signs, by a poet called Wallace Stephens, an American poet. He died in the 1950s, so he's not a romantic poet at all. And this is a poem in which he describes descending, in other words, from a spiritual point of view, going down into your meditation, and then having some of the experiences that I've just been talking about. Not less, because in purple I descended the western day, through what you called the loneliest air. Not less was I myself. What was the ointment sprinkled on my beard? What were the hymns that buzzed beside my ears? What was the sea whose tide swept through me there? Out of my mind the golden ointment reigned, and my ears made the blowing hymns they heard. I was myself the compass of that sea. I was the world in which I walked, and what I saw or heard or felt came not but from myself. And there I found myself more truly and more strange. So he talks about ointment, and he describes it as golden ointment. And in the yogic tradition, the notion that there's a kind of golden honey nectar that is the very subtlest level of materiality before it dissolves into consciousness, and vice versa. So that the liminal space between what is not solid and what is material is experienced as golden, like honey. So that comes up in the yogic tradition. Also in the yogic tradition is this notion of sounds, kind of like when you're on that level of consciousness, there is this kind of music, almost abstract music, the music of the spheres, we might say. So what he's saying is that I descended, I went into myself, and I was myself, but then I was engulfed in this golden ointment, and I heard these hymns, these sounds buzzing, and where did they come from? And then he says, they come from myself. They come from who I am, from what I am. They come from my consciousness. And I walk into that sea of consciousness, but I have my own compass. So I kind of know who I am. I don't lose myself in the sea. I still have a compass. But at the same time, I know that I am more truly myself. And also he uses the word strange. It's like he starts off as an ego at the beginning of the poem. He knows he is himself and that he's going into his meditation or whatever his practice is. And then he has these experiences of golden ointment, golden light, nectar. And he also has an experience of sound and of being part of the sea, part of the ocean. But he recognizes that all those things have come out of his own consciousness and that he's still got a compass of who he is, but then he is also strange to himself because he's discovered that he's more than what he thought he was. He's like part of everything. He's at one with everything. And so the separation between the ego self, which has descended into the great sea of consciousness, as there's a transformation that's taken place there of knowing who you are. You are the ego. You can keep that compass when you go into the great collective. It's more than the collective consciousness of humanity, it's the cosmic consciousness of everything. And you see and experience the signs with golden light, perhaps, and sounds, and a sense of dissolving into the sea while at the same time holding the compass of your personal self. So that's one of the most beautiful mystical poems that I've come across for a long time as a modern poet, and not from one of the more traditional Sufi poets, for example, like Rumi. So that was Wallace Stephens, and the poem is called, just in case you want to look for it, Tea at the Palaz of Hoon. Palaz of Hoon, not palace, P-A-L-A-Z. Tea at the Palaz of hoon. Enjoy.